I'll tell you this. The way I'd tell it to someone who asked once and deserved a straight answer. Not the way my mother tells stories, with her hand on her chest and her voice dropping at the parts where she's the one who suffered. Not the way my brother tells them either, which is mostly leaving himself out entirely. Just the facts, in the order they happened, with enough space between them for you to decide what they mean. My name is Rachel Holt. I am 34 years old. I have a husband named Daniel, a small apartment with too many plants, and until 8 months ago, I was the person who made sure Holt Family Logistics did not collapse under the weight of my father's confidence. That's not bitterness, that's the job description. My father, Gerald Holt, started the company when I was 11. A freight brokerage, mid-size, regional. Nothing glamorous. He is a man who is excellent at starting things and less excellent at sustaining them. My mother, Carol, manages the relationships, the lunches, the phone calls, the handshakes. My brother, Marcus, handles sales. He is very good at it. He has my father's confidence and my mother's warmth, and rooms tend to reorganize themselves around him when he enters. I handled everything else. Payroll, tax filings, quarterly compliance, vendor contracts, the amended returns when someone forgot to document a vehicle purchase correctly, the penalty abatement letters, the correspondence with the IRS that nobody wanted to read but that someone had to answer within 30 days or the number got bigger. I did not have a title for this. I was listed as authorized signatory on 3 accounts and as administrative director on the company's state registration. When people asked what I did for the family business, my mother would say, "Oh, Rachel keeps the books," in the tone you'd use to describe someone who waters the office plant. I kept the books. I also kept the company from a federal tax lien in 2019, but we don't need to get into that right now. Daniel and I got married on a Saturday in April. We had planned it for 8 months. We chose a small venue, a restored farmhouse 40 minutes outside the city, ceremony and dinner for 30 people. I made the guest list carefully. I included my parents. I included Marcus and his wife Stephanie. I included my Aunt Patricia, who I actually like. I chose ivory roses because Daniel's mother had loved them. I chose a dress that took me 4 tries to find and that I paid for myself, which is relevant only because my mother had offered to help and then became unavailable each time I scheduled a fitting. The family came. Or rather, they said they would come. 2 weeks before the wedding, Marcus texted me that he and Stephanie might need to shift things around because of a conflict. My mother called to say she thought the venue was a little far. My father said nothing, because my father communicates primarily through my mother. They confirmed, eventually. All of them. I believed them because I had no reason yet not to. The week before the wedding, I noticed I wasn't receiving messages in the family group chat. I assumed it was a phone issue. I was busy. I had seating charts and a final head count to submit, and Daniel's uncle arriving from out of town. I made a note to check it later and then forgot because there was always something more immediate. We got married on a Saturday. It was a good day, a genuinely good day. Daniel cried a little during the vows, which he'll deny, and my Aunt Patricia gave a toast that made everyone laugh, and the food was better than we'd expected. I was present for all of it. I want to be accurate about that. I was not waiting for something to go wrong. I was just married and happy and not thinking about the group chat. Sunday morning, Daniel and I were having coffee in the hotel room. He was looking at his phone. He got very quiet in a specific way, not the comfortable quiet, the other kind, and he set it face down on the table. "What?" I said. "Nothing," he said. "Just someone's vacation photos." I picked up his phone. He let me. Marcus had posted to Instagram a carousel, white sand, blue water, a restaurant on a pier at sunset, my father with a drink, my mother laughing with her head tilted back the way she does in photos she approves of, Marcus and Stephanie, my cousin Derek and his girlfriend, my Aunt Patricia's sister Norma, who I have met 4 times, 11 people. The caption said, "The family's finally whole." They were in Hawaii. They had been in Hawaii since Thursday. I sat with that for a moment. I want to be accurate about what I felt, because it would be easy to describe it as devastation, and that's not quite right. It was more like recognition. The feeling of seeing something you'd suspected for a long time finally rendered in high resolution. 11 people on a beach. A caption. My wedding weekend. I checked the group chat. I had been removed. Not muted. Removed. Someone had added me back by Sunday afternoon. Marcus, based on the timestamp, without comment, no explanation, no message. Just re-added, as though I might not notice the gap, or might have the decency not to mention it. Daniel was watching me. I said, I'm going to send one message and then I'm done with this today. Is that okay? He said, do what you need to do. I typed, enjoy it while it lasts. I put my phone face down. We went to brunch. The flight home was quiet. Daniel held my hand over the armrest for most of it. We didn't talk about it. There wasn't much to say that the silence wasn't already saying. When we got home, I unpacked, started laundry, and opened my laptop. Not in anger. I want to be clear about that, because the word revenge has been used in conversations I've had since, and it doesn't fit the feeling. Revenge implies you want them to suffer. What I wanted was simpler and less dramatic. I wanted to stop. I had been the person who held things together for long enough that nobody remembered what it looked like before I did it. That is a particular kind of invisible, not ignored exactly, but taken as given. Like gravity. Nobody thanks gravity. Nobody thinks about whether gravity might one day decide it has somewhere else to be. I thought about that for a while. Then I opened the payroll system and transferred primary administrative access back to my father's login credentials, which had not been actively used since 2020. I removed myself as an authorized user on the business checking account. I emailed the company's accountant, a patient man named Stewart, who had been quietly grateful for my organization for 6 years, and told him I was stepping back from my administrative role and that future correspondence should be directed to Gerald Holt directly. Said, my father. I did not explain why. Then I closed the laptop and went to help Daniel hang a mirror we'd been meaning to hang for 3 months. My father had been sitting on an IRS notice since February. This was not unusual. He had a system for mail he didn't want to process, which was to put it on the corner of his desk and let it season. I had, for years, intercepted these letters before they matured into something worse. I knew the February notice existed because Stewart had forwarded me the initial inquiry. I had drafted a response. I had not yet sent it because I was waiting on documentation from Marcus that he had promised and not delivered. I stopped waiting. The documentation never arrived. The response never went out. The case sat. In the 3rd week after our wedding, the IRS moved the case to the next stage. This was not something I did. This was the natural progression of an unresponded inquiry. I simply was no longer the person standing in its path. My father received a formal notice by certified mail. He called Stewart. Stewart told him he was no longer in contact with Rachel and suggested he call her directly. He did not call me. He called Marcus. Marcus called my mother. My mother called me and said, in her particular register of voice, that meant she was frightened but performing calm. Rachel, there seems to be some confusion about the business accounts. I said, I've stepped back from that. Dad has the login. Stewart has all the records. She said, can't you just? I said, I've stepped back from that. He knocked on my door on a Thursday evening. I knew he would. I had known since Sunday that there would be a Thursday, or a Tuesday, or some evening where I would hear that knock. I had thought about what I would feel when it came. I had expected something more than what I actually felt, which was tired. Mildly. The way you feel at the end of a long and unremarkable week. He knocked for a long time. Daniel looked up from the couch. I held up one finger. He nodded and looked back at his book. I opened the door. My father is a large man. He has always taken up space in a way that communicated authority without effort. That evening, standing on my doorstep with an IRS notice in one hand and his reading glasses in the other, he looked like a version of himself with the volume turned down. He was 63 years old, and he looked it. He did not say, I'm sorry we went to Hawaii without you. He did not say I should have called. He said, I need your help understanding this letter, and he held it out. I looked at it. I did not take it. I said, "You'll want a tax attorney." I'd call someone before the response deadline, which is, I looked at the date, 19 days from now. Stuart can recommend someone. He said, "Rachel." I said, "I'm not the authorized signatory anymore, Dad." "I filed the paperwork last week." He stood there for a moment. He opened his mouth and then closed it, which was unusual for him. I said, "I hope Hawaii was good." He didn't answer that. I handed him a piece of paper I had already printed, the name of a tax attorney I had looked up, someone competent, not someone I was trying to punish him with. I wasn't interested in punishing him. I just wasn't interested in solving it for him. "Call her Monday," I said. "She's good." And I closed the door. He called the attorney. They sorted it out over the following weeks. There was a penalty. Not catastrophic, but not small. The business absorbed it. Nobody called to tell me this. I found out from Stuart, who emailed to thank me for the referral. My mother sent a text 2 weeks later that said, "Hope you're settling in well. Let's have dinner soon." I have not responded yet. I'm not sure I will. Not out of malice. I just don't know what the dinner would be for. I don't know what we'd be agreeing to. Marcus has not contacted me. The wedding photos came back last month. The photographer did beautiful work. The light at that farmhouse in April is something I hadn't anticipated. Golden and a little hazy. The kind of light that makes everything look like a memory even while you're still in it. There's one photo I keep coming back to. Daniel and I at the table, not looking at the camera. He's saying something, and I'm laughing, really laughing, with my head down and my shoulders up. My Aunt Patricia is in the background, mid-gesture, mouth open. I don't know what was said. I can't remember the joke. I remember being there, though. Completely there. Not checking my phone. Not managing anything. Not being the person who holds the whole thing together from the edges while everyone else is in the center of the frame. Just in it. The family chat has been quiet. I'm still in it, technically. I just don't look. I don't need to know what they're saying. I already know what they're not. Nobody asked about the wedding. Not the flowers. Not the dress. Not the rid-rained. It didn't, for what it's worth. It was a perfect day.